Hey there, welcome to the Be More podcast. I'm Brittany.
I'm Maria, and welcome back to week 2 of our month of music, right?
Yeah,
Let's see. You texted me again
I did.
yesterday.
I did because I was listening to a podcast and like this audio podcast, and hopefully, speaking of like sound of music, guys can hear me more clearly because now I'm actually like using a headset. Um,
Yeah, can we address the audio issues from the past? I don't even know how many months.
guys, why do I bother?
Look, it's okay. I mean, Brittany's mic has I we believe it's a cable issue. I
We
don't
don't know
even
what's
know.
wrong with it.
Honestly, we don't even know. But right now, Brittany has like a gaming headset on for the people that aren't watching her YouTube channel. so
And it's fine,
so
whatever works at this point.
whatever works because it was staticky and like this one isn't. So fingers crossed. And good luck to me with
Dealing
the
with it in post again.
yeah post edit.
Where all the real fun happens.
Anyways, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to talk a little more about like the what goes on when we hear things part of it. Um,
The biology, the science of it.
well, not like the science of it, but like the why it has an influence on us. Oh, okay, so let's start here, right? So like, do you ever find yourself out of nowhere just randomly starting to like sing or like say lyrics from a song that you know well, like to yourself?
Yeah, 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 all the time.
Right. And do you ever notice that like doing that affects your mood?
Yeah, I don't know why though it happens.
Okay. Well, I don't know why it happens either, but well, that's more of like a neurological thing, like the way we build memory because like our
Okay.
brain literally records everything and then like at random
Mm-hmm.
times it likes to spew it back out at us.
Sure.
Um, but the audio that I was listening to yesterday, was that really yesterday? That no, that was definitely days ago. Because
When you texted me,
that was like 2 days ago. That has to be 2 days ago.
this was please pause. This was definitely yesterday.
No, it was not.
I swear to God.
No, it wasn't. Because that doesn't match my schedule.
Yesterday at 1. Yeah, because literally yesterday 1:21 p.m. I got a text. The text
Okay.
before
Well,
that was last
I
Sunday.
listened to it on Friday. And then I
Okay, and then you just texted me yesterday. Sure,
I was
sure,
trying
sure.
to plan out our guests. Um but anyway, so I was listening to about how things the difference between the things that we hear and the things that we say to ourselves and like the things that we keep on loop in our brain.
Okay,
Pretty much like the essence of the whole conversation was related to like self-talk. And
okay,
and I've mentioned this a couple of different times, like some of the data that's been collected about like self-talk and the things that we hear, which is relevant, I think, to music and what we're talking about this month, um, because we on this show always talk about mental health, and I think that we hear a lot of things in our lives, and music isn't the only thing we hear. And
right,
the data that's been collected from like psychologists and like doing especially on like younger people um, and studying the brain is that all of the things that we hear up until the time that we're 18 are what start to form like our identity of who we are because we're so heavily influenced by the things that we hear um, even when we're unconsciously listening.
okay. Oh, okay,
and
makes sense.
and there's actually a really really famous author named Shad I'm going to say his last name wrong, Hemstetter,
Sure.
talks who talks all about he wrote a book called like What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. But he
I'm probably saying all the wrong things.
no, right, exactly, that's why I like listening to him. He actually talked about like this in terms of like parenting and like the way that
Okay.
we say things to kids and other people and not to make very like directive statements that like, oh, you're so stupid, why would you do that. um
Mm-hmm.
but like those are things like we hear that as a kid and then we start to do it to ourselves. And it's where the audio that I was listening to on Friday was talking about how we have like an outer ear, right? Like things that we hear from the outside. And like when we listen to music or we listen to people, um, like or like the world around us, like that's that outer ear. But what has like a stronger sense of kind of overseeing and influencing the way that we like think or like perceive the world or ourselves
Mhm.
like the voice we hear from our inner ear, which is like us talking to ourselves.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And like even the things that we do like unconsciously are more
Okay.
are more powerful, and like we don't get to control. So like one of the things with music, right, is like those stupid friggin' this is gonna make them all come to my head and I'm gonna be super mad. Like all of those ridiculous commercials with all the phone numbers that like get like literally like they call them like what are they called? They're called what kind of worms are they called? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I lost it. I was gonna say earworms, but I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
no, I think that's
okay.
right.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, now I
Sure.
remember what movie is it that has like the little depiction of one? It's one of the Tim Burton movies. Like it's this creepy little green thing.
Oh, I don't know.
Like a depiction of an earworm. I think it's in The Corpse Bride. But
Mhm.
so like those terrible like jingles that get stuck in your head, and they're the earworms that like literally tap
Mhm.
into like your unconscious, your subconscious memory, and then they randomly pop out. But I mean, those are annoying, but
Mhm.
it's
But
like
they're effective.
right,
Like.
they're not as dangerous, I guess, as the things that
Mhm.
we take on unconsciously from the things that we hear that can influence
Mhm.
mood and are like the way that we see ourselves. And music has a really good way of doing it, which is why, right, like they take those like phone numbers and those slogans and they turn them into jingles because they want you to remember them and they want them to influence you. But I thought it was just really interesting listening to this concept of there are a lot of stories that people have shared about like reaching their goals by listening to themselves like unconsciously,
Mhm.
where they'll like record themselves talking or saying something, and it's actually something that's really used in like therapy processes too, like to really understand how you're feeling, like literally talk to yourself and then play it back. And there are people who, I don't remember where I heard this story from, but there was something. I think this is an example that Shad Hemstetter uses, but he was talking about how this husband really like had a goal of like wanting to lose weight. I'm gonna say lose fat because I don't think lose weight is right, but that's another story for another day. Um,
Okay.
so he wanted to not show up on a higher number on the scale. That's a more
Sure.
general way to state it, I guess.
Just like a very state of the just
Yes, let's
factual.
just make it
Just
super
like
clear. That
yeah.
was the goal that he was like, that was his like ending factor that he was looking at, right? Like how much
Yeah. Yeah.
numbers come up on the scale. So he wanted to lower that number. So he recorded on himself, like recorded to himself, like, oh, like I am this and I am like all this positive stuff. Like I can run, I can do like everything that it takes for me to, get the result that I wanted. And he would play it in his bathroom in the morning, like as he would get ready
Mm.
for the day. And
Mhm.
he ended up losing, what he wanted to lose during that process. But what was interesting about the story is that his wife would be getting ready right next to him, listening to the same thing. And because she was like, listening, like unconsciously listening to it, like she ends up losing weight too, losing fat too. Um,
Mm.
and I thought that was an interesting story because it just speaks to how powerful our unconscious is. So like, and we've talked about this before when it comes to like music and the things we listen to. Um, we almost don't realize how much of an influence they have on us, right? Like we've talked about like listening to things while we're in the car, right? And the music we listen to in the car.
Mhm.
And our one of our conversations recently was about, like actively listening to music in the car and like jamming out real hard. But the other 80% of the time when we're super not paying attention to it and we have things on that can be mood lifting or can be negative, they're still having an influence on us. It's just like when I I'm sorry, but I don't watch the news anymore. Take it for what it is. My sole reason is because there's way more negative stuff in there than I can keep.
Yeah,
Um,
like news on TV and stuff or like the
yeah,
radio
like
news. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean like it's not it's yes, it's the press, but also it's media still.
right.
So
Like
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
very much,
It's very just like flashy and very
and
like
it's molded to a perspective that's very specific,
yeah,
based
for
on
sure.
the desired outcomes of whatever that media outlet is.
Yeah.
I don't watch the news, um, and it's because people in my mind, and I've seen this influence on others, right? Especially my parents. Like you turn on the
Mhm.
news, even if you're not. Some people say like I like to listen to the news in the morning while I'm getting ready. And
Good
some
for them.
people, that's great, but
Yeah.
um, in my mind, if you look at it just from a negative, positive perspective, right? You're starting your day, and the first thing that you're doing is unconsciously taking in all of this negative information. And
Yeah.
whether you know it or not, right? Whether you're aware of it or not, it's having an influence on your mood, right? It's having
Hmm.
all of the stuff that you're hearing is getting stored in your brain. So at some point during the day, you're taking time to process it, which requires a lot of energy. And then whatever the outcome is of your thoughts on it, it's going to affect the rest of your day and like
Hmm.
it's going forward. And I don't think it's a price like I'm not willing to pay that price anymore. Like my sanity and my perspective and my cultivated optimism is not something that I am willing to give away to these media outlets. But I think that like all in all, I just thought it was very interesting to listen to these perspectives about the things that we hear and the things that we say to ourselves and how we sometimes can give up that control of really guiding the ship of like our mindset.
Agreed. And just going off of that, in terms of music, do you then have like certain artists or songs that you need to like listen to be like uplifting, or like if you want to be super sad, like do you have those certain like songs and whatnot? Yeah, I'm sure you do.
The funny thing is, I don't think I have them I don't think I have them based. I mean, I guess I do. I know what my go-to thing is when it comes to like I'm feeling kind of moody and I want to sing in the car. Like
Yeah,
those
so do
are
I.
like those
Yeah.
are my, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
I have playlists for this shit.
right, right. Like I know what that is. And then like when it comes to everything else, I think it's just like I go back to like my favorite musicians, right? When I'm in a good mood and I want to feel something, it's very like yeah, like it's very, and it's not
Yeah.
bland, very like generic. I know if I feel a certain way and there's a song that relates specifically to how I'm feeling, and it's usually not like a good mood, I'll specifically
Yeah, when you're searching out for music, it's usually just like, all right, I need to get whatever emotion I have out.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like you have the same thing?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I have certain playlists for certain moods. For not like a lot. Like I don't have like not millions, hundreds of playlists. I have like a 10-ish playlists that I cycle through. And I update every so often.
Do you
Um,
find that music, like if you're in a specific mood and you do listen to something, it can drastically like influence the mood you're in?
oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like last night after work, I just took like a 20-minute drive around just listening to music, and it was like no joke, like a mid like early 2000s, mid 2000s, like pop punk.
Love it.
It was like Made It Parade, like All Time Low, like Fall Out Boy, early Paramore, and I just like just like released whatever stress I had
I
before I
love
went
it.
home, just so I can just like go to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely, I feel like even if I'm like in a very like I don't know sad mood, playlist for that, I'm just like, all right, let me just like sit in this, and then this will go away after this. So I mean, like it's definitely music. I mean, is definitely a big part of when I'm going through things, because then like you said before, like I'll catch myself just like thinking lyrics or like singing a like or humming or something. So again, it's unconscious at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's super what's really really cool is that we live in a world now where there's so much more music that you can choose. And like I barely scratch like I barely scratch the surface. I'm like really indulging in all of the music that's out there. It's funny. So some of the dancers that I work with are performing this weekend. And like I haven't done, anything in terms of like I haven't been their age in a solid number of years. But it was funny because I'm like watching the live streams and like watching the dancers that I work with, and I'm hearing like songs that I remember we danced to decades ago, and like they're still relevant. And it's funny because there's so many more songs out there, and I hear music. It's nice because and I was listening to songs that like I've never heard never heard of before, that were like, that were, some of them were just spoken words, and it was really cool. It's a really great way to get exposure to all of the music. But it's funny because the songs that, have in a way become timeless are ones that are like, they emote really strong emotions, which is like perfect for
Hmm.
if you're using music and dance and you want to get a message across. But I think it's really cool that we have the ability now, you know 10 years ago, 15 years ago when we were kids, right? It was like whatever music
It was
everyone
difficult.
around you, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever music it was around you was like the music you had option, like available to
I
you.
mean, yeah, MySpace was pretty good, kind of, with people
That's true.
putting songs on
But
their
like not
profiles,
to
but
the
otherwise, I
not
don't
to
know.
the extent that like, and being like the ability to be able to discover new artists, right? Like if
Right, it was so
like
hard.
back then, and we talked about this a little bit on our last episode, right? Like back then, the um like, can I think, they're like the record companies had a lot of say over who could make music and whose music, who people could be exposed to, right? They
Right.
kind of oversaw all of that. And it's funny,
Hmm.
I remember listening to like, that was when like you would go to like a third party website to like, have to worry about everything and like try to just listen to something new. But
Hmm.
now with especially like Spotify, every once in a while, if I'm
So good.
in the place where I can handle it mentally, like I'll just randomly listen to something different, like a new playlist. And
Their playlists are really good. Not
they
sponsored,
are.
but we are on Spotify, by the way.
We are on Spotify. So yeah, you can do that with everything. Um, but I think that, and it's sometimes I get like super overwhelmed by it, and I think it's probably one because of
That's
my,
just overstimulation for you.
right, but it's also because like I feel like, oh my god, I want to listen to all of this, but it's like, it's not even possible. Um,
It's not.
but it's so cool that people who, who might be, like we are and enjoy music the way that we do, and I think it's an innate thing. Especially with everything that's going on with my father right now, you are literally born with music in you, right? Like
Right.
the ability, your heart is a drum set, right? Your
Hmm.
your nerves, right? All of the like neurons and all the electricity that goes through your body is the melody. Like
Hmm.
you and like your blood flowing too. Like the blood that flows through your body is like your body is literally music. So
Can't argue with that. Yeah.
based off of what you said last week with the definition of pause, like, right, and then like you add your breath in on top of that, your body is made of all these really like soft tissue, these really cool soft tissue instruments. So I am one of the people who very strongly believes that like you're born with like an innate connection to music.
Hmm. I
So
mean, why else are we still listening to it?
right. So I think that
Right.
for a
And
lot of
making it.
people, it's very like therapeutic. But it's
Yeah, for sure.
great that we have the ability now to like dive into so many more options of what we want to listen to and like what we want to influence us, because that's the bottom line, right? Like the reason why I wanted to bring up the stuff that I talked about earlier is that what everything we listen to, whether we realize it or not, influences us.
Yeah, from literally what you tell yourself throughout the day to the music that you listen to whatever else people are telling you about yourself.
Yeah,
For sure.
right. And I think, and I know that's why I feel like if we talk about super popular generic pop music, right?
For
That's
the most part. I mean, that's not my preferred genre, but yes, on
no,
here,
no,
yeah.
but I mean, if we're talking about, how like they say how it's very like, do you watch Bob's Burgers at all?
Yeah, I've watched I don't remember what season I stopped, but yes.
Okay, so there's like a band in it called like the Boys for Now, right?
Yeah.
And it's this like, it's a super fun play on like boy bands, but it's very funny because all of their songs. We were just watching it the other like a while ago, and there's an episode, like a Halloween episode about like Halloween, and and the Boys for Now are in it, and they sing a song about like, it's called like "I Love You So Much It's Scary," um, and I was like making a joke and telling Dan that I was gonna play it at our wedding because we're getting married on Halloween. But
Yep.
side note, so this band, like all of the music, first of all, Bob's Burgers has some of the greatest like comedic songs.
I just remembered my sister has like one of their soundtracks or something. It's so good
It's
actually.
so, we have it
It's
on
so funny.
vinyl. So if you'd like to come over and listen to it on vinyl, we have it on vinyl.
Brilliant.
but their songs are super generic. It's like her eye, like it's like like and like
Yeah,
like make fun of
poppy.
like right, but it was never specific, right? It's very generic. Like when they talk about girls, like oh look at her eyes and look at her hair, and it's like not specific. So every young teenager, right? If you look at songs like for Justin Bieber, when I don't even remember any of his music from then. It was such a long time ago.
When he
But
was young, when he was like a
yeah,
kid.
like he's
Yeah,
very non-specific, right? He's just like it's a girl, and anybody can fit into that empty
that
space,
mold,
right?
whatever. Yeah,
And
yeah.
like imagine that he's talking about her, right? And feel really good because they listen to it, and like that
Hmm.
part of the like even to that really simple level, like that music is influencing you,
Yeah, because then you can relate. I mean,
right?
that's why pop music is pop music because popular. Like it's very popular because you can relate to it more than if you listen to an alternative
Which
folk
means it's also
bands.
very things that are popular are generally non-specific and relatable to all people and or
Correct.
are something that people want, right? It's like striking a chord relative to something that is like a desire that people have. So,
Right. It's just generic.
right.
Again, we're not bashing pop music. I listen to
No.
pop music clearly.
Yeah, for real. I'm all for it. But it's just
But
really good. It's a wonderful because it is so popular. It's a wonderful example of like how music can very easily influence us and the unconscious ways that we allow it to.
right, I guess. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just like trying to figure out like what makes pop music different than non-pop music. Honestly, in my brain right now.
I honestly think it's just the very blanket statements.
I think also, well, going into the production of it, I feel like they use the same music theory,
No, it's possible too.
like the same chord progressions and the
Yeah,
same
it is very similar. It's always
time
yeah, the same like time measurements and everything are very. It's always going to be in like a 3-4-4-4 situation.
4/4 4/4 major chords. Not to say that all pop music is like that. I feel like the majority of them are. Because I don't think because everything then sounds the same on the radio. Then again, I also don't like listening to the radio because they have songs that are from like 10 years ago that they're still playing on air. I'm like, why do I need to hear this over and over again?
Okay, sometimes nothing is better than a solid throwback, but I hear you.
I mean, I agree, but also like every day
Also,
on
that's another place too where like the radio is just as bad as the news. I was listening, and then it's worse because then they let people call in.
morning radio talk shows. Yeah, awful.
And I also have to say too, some of the most popular morning show, like, and they're not even morning show, they're like all the time now.
Yeah,
Some of the most popular ones are super, like, I can't even relate to because the people who host them, but I guess those are the people who listen to radio still these days, right? Like, our parents' generations are the people who listen to the radio.
yep,
So it makes sense that, like, those are the people who are leading the talk shows because, like, people our generation are gonna be like, oh, well, I want to listen to a podcast if they want to listen to something in the car. They're not gonna
correct.
listen to
I
the
usually listen to podcasts or I'm on Spotify
same.
in the car.
Same. So I guess I mean I can understand they're trying to stay alive by like addressing the audience that is relevant to them, but it's just sometimes you listen to it and you're just like, oh man, oh man,
Like, why are they still on air? Basically.
yeah. And like, why are you? And it's funny. What kind of makes me mad sometimes is those. It's not that they don't have the right to do it. I get it. You have the right to do it, but they like perpetuate the false information. Like it's just like the media. It's radios is
Yeah,
media.
radio's media. Radio's
It's
kind of like
thing.
not the press, but kind of a press.
But it's like, meh.
Okay, well, switching over, do you have like your top 5 genres that you listen
I don't even. Okay,
to?
I don't even know
A
what
genre.
are anymore. Can I be totally blatant?
Okay,
Like it used to be so simple when we were kids, and now it's so
you're like hip hop,
complicated.
R&B, pop, like
Am I allowed to stay like in that? Is it like
yeah, or even okay. I guess that was too vague of a question. Do you have? This is even more specific though, because I didn't want to get to like top 5 bands. Like
Maria's trying to put me on the spot right now?
yeah, you do that to me every week.
I do. It's cool. Okay, so
Either top 5 genres, or if you do name a genre, maybe just like an artist.
Okay,
or
so
like
I can
top 5 artist bands.
let's start here. The the top. Okay, here are my top people that like when I want to sing in the car.
Oh
Ready?
yeah, here we go. Okay. How about, yeah, we
All
do
on,
this. How about,
all
yeah.
on its own.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, well now Tay Swift is back on there because I
yeah. Okay, cool.
Folklore and Evermore are definitely on there.
Hmm.
First and also second, you're I think you're right about production value because I've been noticing things more. Like Sam Smith is one of my sing in the car people.
Ah, yes, yes.
Um, and some of his music is like really well
They,
produced.
they. His pronouns are they,
Oh,
them.
good. Thank you for correcting
Oh
me.
my god, I just said his. I have to like we have okay.
Their
I'm being
pronouns are they.
conscious.
I actually
Yes,
did
thank
not
you.
know that. When was that?
Um, late last year,
Okay.
they
Well,
announced on their social media.
this goes to show everybody how not
Yeah.
following pop culture
And
I
also I apologize, or not to,
Thank
we
you
just
for
didn't know.
informing me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really didn't know. So thank you for informing me.
And it's still, conscious
But
effort to say
they're
they.
they're
Hmm.
they're someone that I just appreciate the sound of their
His,
voice.
oh my god, their their voice too. There's just so much depth
Yeah.
in their
And that's
voice.
also why Adele is also on that list.
She's very good.
Like
Yes.
whole spectrum. Um
Yeah.
and people who used to be on this, I don't even know if people really know of her. Leona Lewis is on that list.
Very good. Oh my god, where has she been?
I know, right? And she honestly, that's really it. Those are the people that like I
Okay.
really need to sing in the car. Like those are the ones that I go to.
So you
Um,
belt. You're telling me
yeah,
you belt out in
those
the
are
car.
yeah. I'm belting in the car, guys. Yep, yep, yes. Every possible opportunity. My go to bands are so like it's so very typical of me, but and honestly, two
Who
of
cares?
one of them is a full on dance fault. But
Can I guess?
yeah, sure.
Circus Survivor, like Dance Gavin Dance or something?
No, honestly, okay. Not that I don't like them, but they're not my go-tos. I do like Circa. Anthony Green on his own is another person that I really like to listen
Anthony Green. I've seen him solo at Starland Ballroom. He's very
to. Oh my
good.
god. So
He's
okay.
very
We're
good.
not talking about concerts this time, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can go on it. Yeah. That's a whole experience.
we went to I don't even know where this hole in the wall was in Maryland.
I mean, those are the best
And
places to go to.
we got to see him in like a small crowd of
He's so good.
He's
He's
been doing
so
a lot
good.
of live from home concerts on Instagram
Oh, that's good.
last year too, which is really cool.
Nice.
And benefits and stuff. So though that's like one of my soul people. Like if I'm feeling like a soul in like a
Yeah. In your feels.
moods, yeah. And Brent Walsh, which is also Dan's fault. You know that.
Okay. I don't know who that is.
Literally most of my music that I listen to these days is influenced by my fiance. He has a very interesting, wide spanning taste in music.
I can tell. I can
Uh,
tell from your
he's
apartment.
probably not listening. Are you listening to me right now? He's waving. He's smiling. Um, but like yeah, like music is one of the things that brought us together. Like we used to
Mhm.
the song Chasing Cars. Remember that
Snow
song?
Patrol.
We used to like literally just lay in bed and just like cuddles and
Mm-hmm.
listen to like Snow Patrol and like random music.
What? What a throwback.
I know, for reals. But yeah, so Anthony Green and Brent Walsh are people that I really like to just listen to when I'm in my feels. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, so the band that got me, okay,
Go ahead.
the band that got me was I the Mighty.
I am the mighty. I don't think I know them.
Got me like super hooked on them.
Okay.
And then oh my god, why can't I remember? Why can't I remember their
This
name?
is why I have playlists for
Why is
everything.
this happening to me right now? Obviously Mayday Parade because that's been forever. But
Yeah.
and
I was.
I started listening to at that time that I didn't listen to for forever, and then Dan reminded me of, and now I'm obsessed with them again. And I can't remember who. Do you remember who it was? Ugh, I have to look it up on Spotify. Sleeping with
Are they?
Sirens. It just came to me. See,
Who?
guys, everything is stored. Everything is stored in your brain. I promise you.
Wait. Who did you say? I didn't hear that.
Sleeping with Sirens.
Oh, Sleeping with Sirens.
Have you
Wow.
listened to their newer stuff? I really.
No, I haven't listened to that that genre in a hot minute.
That's
Honestly,
my. What is that genre then?
Sleeping with Sirens. I consider them like alternative punk emo situation.
Can you define what the hell punk means?
When I think of punk, I can't.
You
I
define
can't.
what punk means?
Yeah, can he
Why don't you
define
just
it?
look up? Come over here. What do you mean? Are you saying no as in you're not coming over here, and no as in you can't define it? You can't define it.
I can't
That's
define it.
that's where it gets complicated, right? Because back when we were in middle school, and there
You
were
knew what punk was like in middle school.
no, like you knew when you listened to it, but like
Yeah, I can't describe it.
we didn't have to like. I literally remember growing up, and when we first started listening to other bands, I literally just referred to anything that wasn't classic rock as alternate rock because that's all I
No, but that makes
right, like that's all I knew, right? And and in my mind, growing up listening to all the music, like listening to all the music that my dad listened to, like that was what rock was. So
I mean, yeah. Hmm.
when you go to anything that came out around the time that we were born and after that, like it was alternative. So it's easy for me to just be like alternative rock done, and
I
then
mean, yeah, because you're not wrong at that point because it's not pop rock because they're not really on the radio. Number
right,
one. Number two, it doesn't sound like the rock and roll that Presley, like Elvis
like classic
Presley, and
rock.
like
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
like
classic
the
rock.
beginnings of classic rock. And then it's not like it's not hardcore metalcore. So everything else is kind of just like alternative. And then there's subgenres of alternative. So it's like,
Right, which is all the stuff that I don't know. So let's educate me right now.
oh, I mean, like I'm not very well versed in it, but I can
No,
tell you what a pop punk song is versus a punk song versus a emo core versus a fucking I don't even know what else. Like it all just sounds different because of all the
it does.
music theory behind it and all the sounds, all the production. Because you can't tell me that like Sleeping with Sirens versus Paramore right now versus All Time Low right now are all
You're right.
still pop
So true.
punk or like punk back in when we were middle school, high school. Like Paramore and All Time Low are more pop punk. I'm sure Sleeping with
And they
Siren isn't
make it.
pop.
They no, they
Yeah.
make it like what's fun about listening to them, like okay, like Mayday Parade for example, right? Their newer album Sunnyland is like very different from some of their previous albums.
Oh, when yeah.
So
Yeah.
like even from album to album, sometimes they like
Oh yeah, they bend
change a
genres.
little bit, yeah, where they are. So I mean, it's hard to say what I just like to like say a band or an artist, and I literally just like
But
my
then you get that feel. Yeah.
my favorite genre of music is literally music that has a guitar and a drum in it. Like done, we're done.
Okay.
I'll
That's
read
very vague.
and
Yeah.
like acoustic guitars and acapellas are some of my favorite things to like listen to when I'm in my moods, which is why I like Anthony Green and Brent Walsh. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so
Nice.
yeah, what about you?
Okay. Um, I can give like maybe my top 5 artists right now, and then you can just decipher what my mindset is.
Let's see if I know who they are.
Yeah. Always these two will always be my top 5. Megan Dia,
Mm, that's literally been for anybody who doesn't know Maria via like middle high school years. That's always been at the top of the list.
and like I finally like got to talk to them last year when they toured before COVID. They came back. Um, they came back and I saw them with my sister in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, I think. I finally got to talk to them. And I'm hoping once COVID's done, I go get a fucking tattoo because I got something signed from them. And I was like, can you just write this so I can get this tattooed? I'm one of those people.
Love it.
So, Megan Dia, number 1. Number 2, Jack's Mannequin.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But like not
Throwbacks.
just not Jack's Mannequins. Andy, the frontliner, like whatever his project
Yeah.
is, I will listen to
Yeah.
with
He's got a lot
all
of
my
like
being.
his own stuff now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I also went to during the height of COVID. We're not talking about concerts, but during the height of COVID, he had a drive-through concert. It was everything in Transit's 15-year anniversary of that
Oh
album.
my
The one with
god.
yeah.
Why are we so old?
So I listened. So it was a very and I went by myself, and it was a very good concert just to chill and like listen to all those very good songs that we grew up listening to in
I
in
literally hear the
succession.
like
Dark
that.
Blue is like iconic for everyone
Yeah.
that grew up during that era.
Oh my god, that's another song I used to belt to. God, now I have to listen to that. Every
Yeah,
once in
that's
a
on my
while, I get
playlist.
in a mood because I think it's saved on. I think their album's like saved in the SD card on my phone that's been like transitioning from
Nice,
phone to
nice.
space. So
It's a very good album. It's one of my top albums, honestly.
it is really good.
So those are two. Number three, BTS. Is that K-pop group? Yeah. I mean, whatever. Like they're very no, because I'm not gonna get slack, but because like they're so popular now that like duh,
Oh,
like people
whatever.
are gonna be like, this is so generic. Like it's not though.
The first two things that you mentioned are not though, so it's
Yeah.
like
So I get leeway. That's three. um hold on, let me just so one, two, three. Number four, I also will say Twice, who's also a K-pop group. That's a girl group this time though. They're very poppy, whereas BTS is more. They started out hip hop and R&B, switched to like more pop, and now is more alternative. But Twice has always been very poppy. So that's four, right?
yeah.
Number five right now will probably be Lord.
Huh. I
Yeah,
really like her new stuff.
she should be coming out with her third album. Um, uh, honorable mention goes to like the 1975. So I have like six
Sure.
ish. I could probably
God,
keep
I haven't
going
even
on,
heard a
but
lot.
like those are my top five in honorable mention. Um, but Lord's lyrics are crazy good. And again, I also talked about Jack Antonoff, who produced Folklore and I think Evermore for Taylor Swift. He's her main producer on her stuff. Um, and his production is always so clean. It's so good. It just makes like so much sense with her lyrics. Um,
I've been I've been seeing I've been seeing a lot. I started hearing a lot about Lord from like the dancers that I work with. Because of exactly that. Like her
mhm.
lyrics help like they feel something, it makes them feel something. Um and it's relatable to a lot of like coming of age
That's what it
women
is, right?
in
Yeah.
that, right? Like she literally
It,
is doing all of that.
yeah, her first albums. I remember when her first album came out. I was like, I got it the day it released because I was like, this girl is gonna go somewhere. Like I just knew, and it was funny because it was the same thing with Halsey. When Halsey's first album,
Oh, I really
first like
like her.
I really like her too. When her first album got released, I was like, oh, she's gonna blow up, like, and I wasn't wrong on those two counts.
No,
Just
I
because
think
like you
it's
can feel it, when someone's releasing their first album, like you can feel
and
if they're
it's
gonna blow up or
a
not.
huge thing for a young female artist to come out and be able to have a voice to talk about things that aren't things that young female artists are told that they've been allowed to talk about.
Right?
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
let's go back to like young Britney Spears, who literally started at the same age, right? She wasn't allowed to talk. I mean, remember when the song Lucky came out and everybody was like, "Oh my god," like
Like, is she okay?
right. And it was a big deal to be talking about something that wasn't right or something that wasn't nice and like, "Oh my gosh, she's a female artist, how she could do this." If we just take a look at male versus female artists, and then it's totally different across genres, right? But like female artists being allowed to not be in, especially in like pop culture, to not be in such a pretty place
Mm-hmm.
was never like allowed. And now I think it's really cool too if you take a look at female artists in like the hip hop R&B, right? They're talking about the same amount of like
Yeah.
in-depth raunchy stuff that like guys have always talked about in that genre, right? And it might not have been like a matter of like it's not allowed, but like there wasn't a space for it. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women like Nicki Minaj like literally was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna talk
Who
about
cares?
V, I'm gonna talk about my V too. Like I, I think I think that it's awesome that women have been able
Yeah,
to
they're just reclaiming
right and like talking about
their
the
being.
realities of just being a person and not necessarily matter. And they even kind of talk a little bit about the specific things that they encounter related to being female, but
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
being a person and having feelings, I think is a really nice thing. And I think it's really good for younger generations to get to hear. Like I just watched, like I was talking about before, the dance world allows dancers to not only use movement as expression, but like dive into lots of different music, especially because at a young age, they they go hand in hand. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I watched a production piece that had one of my dancers in it that was like talking about anxiety. Like the song
Mhm.
straight up about like dealing with anxiety and suicide. And
Okay.
um she deals with anxiety and I deal with anxiety. It's something that we like talk about a lot outside of her training because I think that it's super important to look at like the whole person when you work on anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
Talk about it a lot and there was even I mean that's the one hard thing about the exposure that kids have to these songs, right? Is not all of them are pretty. Do you remember when
No, not all of them are pretty.
they are like really, they're not all like good and uplifting. A lot of them are real harsh, right? And it can be hard. This is like the potential
It
like
can
gray
it can
space
I would
of
say it can harm or help them
have
though.
yeah, having all of this exposure to all of this different music. And which is why I think I like Lord because she doesn't just like she can put some hope in her stuff, right? She talks about stuff, but there's hopefulness there still. Um,
Yeah, you can feel it in your gut when you're listening to Lord.
yeah. There was another song that I was listening to that was about I couldn't I mean, I think it's great that like the realms of what these kids get exposed to are amazing and what they're allowed to perform to, but I think that it comes to a point now where in my mind I was like, "Oh my god, I hope that like these children have a conversation with whoever choreographed this about this because this is really heavy." The topic of the song was literally about like um oh my god, why?
Do you know who it's by?
Domestic violence. There we go.
Oh, that's great. Do you know who it's by?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Um the name of the song is Behind the Wall.
I'll Google it. You can talk about it. Go
And
ahead.
it's not like it's just him. Like it's just the guy singing the melody. Like there's nothing else. And it's very repetitive and it kind of tells a story. And it's the story of like a off stander like listening to domestic violence and then like eventually like one of them killing the other
Tracy
person
Chapman?
and he's like just listening to the whole thing and these like tweeny boppers are doing a dance to it and I was like oh my god at first I was like wow this is super powerful like this is like look at the message we're sending out like this never would have like back in our day when everything had to be like super like talk about our like real things that happen in the world um that never would have happened but then I was like oh my god I hope someone talked to these kids about all of this like that's the hard part right is you have to like it's great for kids to have exposure to all of this different type of music but if you don't have someone to be able to be there to have a conversation like a buffer situation
Yeah,
it can
yeah.
get really dangerous what they start to
Hmm.
listen to because there are like we've had conversations about like suicide and suicidal like ideation and
Yeah.
there's a lot of music like there's a genre for that period.
They're just yeah, I mean and there are songs that are very blatant in their lyrics, like that one I just saw the lyrics.
Yeah,
And there are songs where you have to dig for it
and
and you don't know why that song
smart.
affects you. You
And
know, like
kids
it,
are smart.
I mean, yeah, they are very smart.
They're born with like a whole new set of stuff like that
You
we're
know,
not
no, for
born
sure.
with like
A lot of they know how to critically
right
think.
like they just get stuff in a different way than I feel
It's
like
also presented to them differently now.
right.
It's so
So
accessible.
I think it's really important. I know that there are like I know I've seen things that like Instagram has when you go to like type a hashtag in, they
Hmm.
have this could bring up images that like are sensitive and blah blah blah
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
help right now, which is great. And I'm sure they have that in terms of like I'm sure that kind of buffer sits outside of a lot of things, like a lot of search things in that realm.
You
Um,
know, hold on. I just remembered something. You know how CDs when we used to buy CDs had the ratings on them, like
oh
18
yeah,
plus,
yeah, yeah,
and like we used to not be able to buy them without an adult.
yeah.
Just as an aside for people.
Yeah, I honestly
Now
think that this is
and
really weird, but I think that like either one of the Mariah Carey or J Lo CDs that I
hi
got,
J Lo.
I couldn't buy on my own. Like,
Yeah, Eminem.
yeah,
I'm
that was the reality of it. But
Eminem's I don't remember what that
so
album was.
it's a beautiful thing for us to have access to this like bountiful and abundant resource for music, right? Whatever
Hmm.
resources that
Yeah,
let us dive into music. But I think when it comes to honestly, sometimes like someone needs to filter me on what I search and I listen to because if you get too much into your moods, it can be dangerous. So I think that when it comes to like adolescents, especially adolescents, but like younger people listening to music, right? That's why Kids Bop became a thing. Um, we we can. It's not that we have to filter. You can't. I'm sorry, but you can't filter stuff from kids anymore because if you don't talk to them about it, they're gonna get it somehow. Like it has to be
100%. Yeah.
it has to be very upfront. But that's what needs to come with it, right? Like we need to have this like guide through these types of things, what they get exposed um, to keep them safe and well, right? To let them really know and get perspectives, and then choose what perspective they want to pick on their own, but make sure that they're in a place where they have support and they have hope and they have all
Hmm.
the stuff too. After being in their fields, but I think that that's a very like large statement to talk about. How music has influence on us, right? And the things that we hear have influence on us because even little kids, like I remember my when we don't even realize it that we're getting influenced by it. The whole reason why I started dancing when I was a kid was because when we were at a 4th of July party at like a family friend's house, there was like music playing, and apparently I was like just dance. Like no one could stop me from I was barely 3 years old, and no one can stop me from like dancing. Um, at that age, right? It didn't matter what I heard in the song, like if there were even lyrics in the song, like the music literally moved me. Like the music influenced me to do that. And then when we start to get those feelings, right? We have that strong connection that's built. We grow with that, right? No matter what we're listening to. So it can even become unconscious that we're getting influenced. And I think it's just raising our own awareness to understand that the things that we hear and the things we see, which is, another we're not at the point yet where we really see music, but I'm sure and one day soon there'll be like these whole 3D graphic things, which is why light shows are fun.
I feel like that's also why people go to raves.
Very true, right? Like all of this stuff, all it music has a way of influencing like all of our senses, and sound has a way of influencing all of our senses. And
Thank God I don't have like synesthesia
no, I
with the
actually
which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just
no, no,
because
no.
the
It's
amount of
hard.
overstimulation that I would have with not
Yeah.
just music, just life in general, I feel like, but just music, just talking about music, like I feel like my brain would just be like
I had someone who I was friends with freshman year in college who did suffer from that. I don't know if it was that.
synesthesia.
If you
I
listen
can't
to
even
this,
say it anymore.
I think that's what it
Synesthesia.
was. But she used to have. We would go. It became really hard for us to like go out and do things because there would be instances where like it was like 5 of us in our friend group, and 5 or 6 of us, we would all go out and like even just like getting on the buses at Rutgers, going into a party at the like in any of the
Is
houses,
it
like so
sounds?
it's lights.
It's lights.
It's like a combination, but it was
Mm.
primarily lights. So like even at the football games,
Ooh.
there were times where like she would talk to all of us and literally have to tell us like this is what has to happen if this happens to me. And there were times when we had to
Mm-hmm.
to call an ambulance. We would have to like try to get her out of it. We'd have to like it's not fun, and it's probably and I'm like she probably has the best handle on it, of anybody. But I mean it's like even that, right? That's a perfect literally like trigger influence result, right? Like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
happens. Like it's a
Yeah.
perfect way to understand that you get influenced by it. And it's again, right? It's not you don't have to be actively she doesn't have to be actively aware of the fact that there's a light there. If a light flashes in front of her,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Game over.
But yeah, I'm really excited for next week. We're having one of Dan's childhood friends join us.
Oh,
Andy,
cool.
he's worked in music therapy and he has a band. He's a really really awesome guitarist. He's actually going to play guitar for our ceremony at our wedding, which I'm stoked about.
Oh, nice.
Um, and I'm really excited to hear all of his perspective on all of this, and
Mm-hmm.
to have him share this with everyone who listens, because music plays a really important role, and sound plays a really important role in our lives, and it's really cool to get a new perspective on
Mm-hmm.
what that is.
Yeah, agreed. That'd be pretty cool. And then the week after I think is we talk about concerts just
Yes,
as
we're
a
going to talk about concerts. So if you listen to this episode, and you're somebody who has a fun concert experience, you want to talk about no concerts and COVID, you want to talk about something related to a live sound experience you've had, we want to hear about it, and we want our listeners to be able to hear about it. So come and join us, and let's because now we're getting into the season. We're getting tis the season as we're approaching it for concerts, and hopefully something happens. Fingers crossed.
fingers
Um,
crossed.
something happens to make it possible because life life ain't the same without it. For reals.
100%.
Ray and I will tell you about all of our experiences of our yearly constant concerts, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of our major bonding experiences, but life's not the same without it. So we're gonna reminisce and we're gonna look towards the future and we're gonna talk about concerts as well as we round out our month of music in
Mm-hmm.
March.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it for right now.
Yeah, we did such a good job today.
Yeah. It's funny because I literally just woke up. So.
And we lost an hour of sleep. Claps for us, guys. That's,
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I
what
saw
it
it
is.
go forward.
Oh, did you? Oh God, no, no, you're up too late. All right, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you're enjoying our month of music, and we will see you on our next one.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.